Hey guys, so once again, we're all on Amanda, once again, because apparently nobody has a storyline, right? It seems to me that the ladies have different rules for themselves than they do for Amanda. Okay, let's get into everything, right? I think that the main focus was the Pinocchio comment on the bridge, right? Between Natalie and Boz. First of all, they might have thought it was a lighthearted joke, ha ha ha, but the fact is, Boz said her name so loudly she couldn't help but hear it. So it felt kind of mean considering how close Amanda was in proximity. Maybe it might be one thing if they was just amongst themselves making a joke, but it almost feels like they intentionally made the joke loud enough for her to hear it, right? Because they were in such close range. So that's the part that feels a little mean, when Natalie's saying, "Who you think is Pinocchio?" And she's made the joke, kind of inferring Amanda, anyways, right? So yeah, that scene just felt a little bit mean. Because like I said, Amanda was in such proximity. If you're gonna joke to my face, right? If you're gonna be that bold, right? Amanda was right there. You may as well have just, made the comment to her face at that point. But anyway, we also saw Natalie, Kyle, and Amanda together. And Amanda, and I guess I can understand, sometimes you can hear something, you're trying to question, okay, did I hear what I heard? Am I sure? Am I right? So she's trying to make sure she heard what she heard. And Natalie confused, she's like, yeah, I heard it. But of course she heard it. She's the one who started the joke. That's the part that Amanda doesn't seem to realize. And Natalie was the one who started the joke, not Boz. Okay? But of course, later on, Amanda confronts her about it. And they're trying to gaslight her and act like it didn't happen. And I know Boz has come out recently and said, oh, I forgot that I made the comment, blah, blah, blah. Did you really forget? And what really got on my nerve, that particular scene, okay, I didn't like how Jennifer Tilly jumped in and was like, well, Amanda, you're wasting time having your feelings hurt when it might not have even happened. How would you know? You weren't even there. You weren't even around when they made the comment. So how can you comment one way or the other about whether or not it happened? If you wasn't there, the best thing you could do is shut up. Period. That was between Amanda and Boz. Only reason Kyle jumped in because she was present when Natalie confirmed that Boz did say her name. And that also pissed me off, right? Like Kyle, I'm glad she stepped in at that moment to defend Amanda because it was ridiculous how Natalie was trying to twist it around and make it seem like she didn't say anything. But here's the truth, though. She was deflecting because she didn't want to admit that she was the one who actually started the joke. It was her who started this whole joke. But she backpedaled. She punked out when Kyle called out, because Kyle was trying to get to the bottom of it. She was like, okay, well, you said that you heard, so what did you hear? She was trying to get to the bottom of what was going on, but Natalie punked out, right? So my thing is this: if you gonna say something, own it. That's all it is to it, which is so ironic, right? Because we have spent all these weeks coming at Amanda because the ladies felt like Amanda didn't own what she said about Dorit. She kept deflecting on Kyle, okay? Okay, so if that's the case, you got to own what you say too, period. And then my other thing that I didn't like when they were all having a discussion about how, Amanda chooses to express herself. She was like, hey, express myself in a much calmer way or whatever. What I don't like is that they tell her she needs to express herself. She needs to tell people how she feels, this, that, and the third. But the moment she does tell people how she's feeling, she gets dismissed as being called sensitive. When she confronted Boz about the joke, they're like, oh, well, is it possible that maybe you're just a little oversensitive? It's like, really? I hate when people do that because to me, you're not taking any ownership for what you said. You're trying to make it seem like it's my problem. When in all reality, you started it. So I have a right to feel, have a way I want to feel about it, right? And isn't Boz the same person who said earlier on when they were at their dinner that said, well, you can't control how other people choose to respond? Doesn't the same thing apply here? You see where we're going with the double standards? I also think it's interesting how they treat her like she's a child, even with the way they speak to her. But if we're being honest, they're the one who's acting like a bunch of high school bullies, right? You talk about being grown, but it seems to me they kind of expose something. They expose the fact that they don't know how to communicate unless they're shouting and arguing with each other. Whereas Amanda is able to just calmly say whatever it is that she has to say. She doesn't always have to be screaming and cursing at you to get your point across. So I just find it funny because, you're so grown, you should know how to communicate in all aspects, right? Period. But I will say, Amanda does need to toughen up a little bit. It's one thing to speak in a calm manner, and I get that. Initially you want to be diplomatic, and that's fine. But at some point, you do have to stand your ground a bit. Because here's the things about bullies. They're going to constantly come for you until you let them know that you're not the one. And that's exactly what's happening here. None of them respect her because she hasn't set the boundary to say, look, I'm not it. Y'all not going to keep coming for me. And in that moment when everybody was coming for her at the dinner, she should have let them know. She should have shut them down at that moment. There's a time to be diplomatic and there's a time where you have to light a fire on the people. Period. Because otherwise, they're just going to keep going. They're just going to keep going. And I'm willing to bet the next episode is going to be some more of them coming at her for something, anything. Like at this point, just find a storyline. They should be grateful that Amanda's on the show because Amanda's everybody's storyline. Okay? She's everybody's storyline. And then also, let's talk about the scene when Erika and Boz were in the car and they was looking up Amanda's business. And then stopped off to go through ChatGPT. You didn't even do like a real Google search. You went through ChatGPT. But okay, that's beside the point. Here's what I don't like. It's one thing, and this is where Sutton was right to speak up and say something, right? Because they're all business owners, right? Allegedly. So here's my thing. It's one thing to not like somebody, but it's another thing to intentionally go after their business. That's where I draw the line. Like, I don't think that you should be going out of your way to try to impact somebody's livelihood. I think that's wrong. Because I'm pretty sure they all have skeletons if we want to start digging. Because there's some rumors about Boz, right? And we all know what's going on with Erika. There were some question marks about her, right? So I think we got to draw the line somewhere. I think your family members and people's businesses should be off limits. Unless you did business with that person and something happened with you. Okay, fine. But I don't think it's right to go that far. I think they're crossing a boundary there. And now, because I think it is going to get back to Amanda that they're trying to showcase her as this big con artist. This is the time where Amanda really needs to step up and say something. Because you can't let people go but so far and play with you like that. That's just the bottom line. So I think they're really being mean. Like they're acting like I said, they're acting like a bunch of high school kids. So clearly you haven't grown up. So how's the youngest one there? Actually the more mature one, right? Nobody wants to deal with this nonsense. Like, find something to do. And then, of course, Dorit's out there spending, buying out Gucci. And then even before they got the Gucci, she was in the store. I forget what designer store it was at, but she was in the store with Erika and Rachel. And she had spent all this money. It sounded like she spent more money than Jennifer Tilly had spent in Dolce. And it's just like, how you out there shopping the most and you in the most debt? You got the most problems going on. Because I think we heard in recent news, once again, her mortgage is not paid. Oh, I didn't know. I just found out a few weeks beforehand. And, PK's going to take care of it for me. Girl, you the one living in the house now. Well, at some point, you need to start looking at the finances. You can't keep being oblivious. How can you still not know what's going on, especially when you're going through a divorce? You got to start figuring it out. And she's just so clueless, and it just really gets on my nerves because it's like, it's okay to want to shop every so often, but she has to realize she doesn't know what type of financial situation she's looking at. She's already admitted she doesn't know anything about PK's finances, right? So for all she know, he could be in debt. Now, granted, I'm not disparaging him. I don't know him personally, but it just doesn't look good. Could he keep missing the payments on the mortgage? So that tells me you can't afford the house. So I'm glad that she said on Watch What Happened Live that they're going to sell the house, which you should, because it's clear that you can't afford it anymore. There's nothing wrong with downsizing, right? And if we're going to be real fair, okay, and people might not like what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's ironic how they want to come at Amanda and say that she might be a fraud. But if we're going to be honest, maybe the real fraud of the show is Dorit. Because she keep coming on the show acting like she got money. Here's the thing. Her and Erika were both put into situations where they had to be humbled, right? Because things have happened with their husband. They're not in the same place that they were before. But the difference between Erika and Dorit is that Erika is finally owning where she is in her life. And she made adjustments. She's living in an apartment, which is nothing wrong with that. And you don't see her out there blowing money left and right. Like, she might do a little shopping here and there, but Erika's focused on rebuilding her life because she understands her priorities. Whereas Dorit is not. Dorit has 2 kids, and it doesn't seem like she's that concerned about, looking after the finances, making sure you're building some reserves because you keep spending money. And then you don't even buy them anything. You're spending it all on yourself. I'm not saying she don't buy for her kids, but I'm just saying what we see on camera is always me, 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 me. When she got her book advance, what's the first thing she do? She went and bought a Kelly bag. Like, why is a Kelly bag your first priority when you're about to be on your own with 2 kids? I'm just saying. It might be one thing if you had the money that some of the other ladies have. Like Rachel Zoe don't have anything to worry about. She's going through the divorce, but at the end of the day, we know she can take care of her and her kids. She's fine. She don't have anything to worry about. You, not so much. So we got to be a little bit more mindful. Like, this whole oblivious act is just not going to cut it at this point. You're too grown for that. In fact, you're old enough to know better, right? You're old enough to know that you should be aware if your mortgage is getting paid, especially if you and your husband are no longer together anymore. Period. And contrary to popular belief, it doesn't matter who's the provider. Both parties should be aware of the finances. So yeah, I need Dorit to get it together. Like, she needs to understand where her priorities lie. And your priority should not be Gucci. I'm sorry, it's not. Not at this stage in the game. It's okay to have to humble yourself and start over. Nobody's going to judge you for that. But she's living in this world of delusion, glitz and glam, because she wants everybody to still think that she's keeping up the Joneses. And it's getting old. Just like her lateness is getting old. And it seems like the cast is finally going to address it with her. Because I know you could tell from last episode, Erika was annoyed. And she even mentioned this episode she was annoyed because not only did they have to wait for her in dinner, when they were all shopping together, it seemed like they had a limited amount of time where they can shop. And instead of Dorit respecting the time, she wants to take forever. And it's like, girl, you're not the only one shopping, right? It's like, and then she's on the confession, well, when I shop, I like to look at everything. That's fine when you're by yourself, right? But when you're with other people, you have to respect them as well and their time and what they might want to do as well. But again, Dorit's just all about herself. And I kind of understand where Erika was coming from too. She was like, you're the last one to come to dinner, then you're going to be the first one to leave. It's like, girl, we can't. If everybody else was sucking it up, you got to suck it up. And then just because she left, Boz was like, oh, well, maybe we should call it a night. Wow, we got to leave just because she left? And if Boz is really her friend, she would just be upfront with her. I was like, girl, like, we got to check some of this. This is not cool. But she didn't want to tell her the truth. But anyway, these women are just doing a little bit too much at this point. And this whole storyline is just getting old. Like, find something else to talk about. Okay, so what? You don't like Amanda? We got it. We got it. Y'all clearly grasping for straws at this point. Move on. I see next episode. It seems like Colin and Dorit are going to finally have a blowout. And it seems like Erika and Dorit are going to finally have... Oh, matter of fact, Sutton had words for her too. Because she said, I've seen you treat your friends like dirt all summer. So apparently quite a few people are going to have words for Dorit. So maybe this is Dorit's reckoning. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I need her to get over herself. Okay? Until next time. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.